It is surprising that the Court of Appeal handling the Presidential Election Petition that refused the live broadcast during the court proceeding now has urged the whole news channel to come and air the judgment live. This is interesting. Nigeria is going to shake on Wednesday.
The long-awaited judgment in the petitions filed by the PDP and Atiku Abubakar and that of the Labour Party and Peter Obi is set to come up on Wednesday, September 6, 2023. The notice of the judgment was communicated by the Secretary of the Presidential Election Petition Court to all the parties on Monday. Both Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar are challenging INEC's declaration of APC's Bola Tinubu as president on grounds that the election was riddled with corrupt practices and also that Tinubu was not qualified to contest. On March 1, 2023, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC declared Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu winner of the February 25, 2023 presidential election. In the results announced by INEC, Tinubu polled 8,794,726 votes, representing 36.61% of the total votes cast at the election, to emerge victorious. Atiku, who came second, scored 6,984,520, representing 29.07% of the votes cast, while Obi scored 6,101,533, representing 25.40% of the votes cast during the disputed election. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of the NNPP came forth with 1,496,687, representing 6.40% of the votes cast. On May 8, 2023, the five-member Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, led by Justice Haruna Samani, began sitting at the Court of Appeal complex in Abuja. However, less than 1 week after the panel began its proceedings, two aggrieved political parties withdrew their petitions at the tribunal. The affected political parties were the Action Alliance AA, which fielded Solomon Okocha as its presidential candidate, and the Action Alliance, which fielded Major Hamza Al-Mustafa as its presidential candidate for the poll.
Action Alliance sponsored a candidate by name Dr. Hamza Al-Mustafa. His name and logo appeared on the ballot box, so it was not unlawfully excluded as erroneously claimed. And the petition that was filed purportedly on behalf of Action Alliance was not instructed by Action Alliance, neither did Action Alliance consent to the filing of that petition. There is a subsisting order of the FCT High Court mandating INEC to deal with Barrister Kenneth today as the late national chairman of Action Alliance. In compliance with that judgment, INEC wrote to Barrister Kenneth Udeze to recognize him as the national chairman. And the court also ordered INEC not to collect any primary nomination or nominated name from any other person than Barrister Kenneth Udeze as a chairman. And this faction that filed the petition went on appeal. They appealed that judgment. It is pending before the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division. Now, INEC, in compliance with that judgment, dealt with the Barrister Kenneth Udeze, late national chairman of Action Alliance. Now, why the appeal is pending, they filed this petition purportedly under Action Alliance. But the true and authentic leadership of Action Alliance was not aware of it.
In summary, all the petitioners prayed the tribunal to declare that Tinubu was not duly elected by a majority of the lawful votes cast at the election.
We are very happy that at last the sitting of the court has started with this inauguration. And as you see, the court committed itself to cooperate and ensure that these petitions are expeditiously dealt with. And on our part, all the lawyers for all the parties also committed themselves to cooperating with the tribunal, the court, to make sure that these matters are dealt with.
We started on a very good note. I believe you were here and heard what we said in reply to the statement by the presiding justice of this court. Maybe let me repeat myself. I said that the decision to be rendered will impact on Nigeria's electoral jurisprudence, judicialism, and constitutionalism. It's very, very important that this is made known.
At the Presidential Election Court, the APM is praying the tribunal to nullify the election of Tinubu on the ground that APC did not properly sponsor him. Tinubu, for fielding Kashim Shettima as his vice presidential candidate without withdrawing his earlier nomination as a senatorial candidate. APC had nominated Shettima as the Borno Central Senatorial District candidate and later nominated by the same party as vice presidential candidate following the withdrawal of one Kabiru Masari, the initial vice presidential candidate to Tinubu. Therefore, Ojeyi and her political party, the APM, contended that Shettima and the APC breached the Electoral Act by engaging in the alleged double nomination. However, during the proceedings of July 14, 2023, where final addresses were adopted, APM, through its counsel Andrew Malgu, SAN, asked the court to invoke relevant laws to nullify the nomination of Tinubu and Shettima on the grounds of unlawful, illegal, and unjustifiable nomination. But INEC prayed the court to dismiss the petitions for lacking in merit. The APC, represented by Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, asked the court to dismiss the petition on all grounds for being frivolous, irritating, and unwarranted. Fagbemi argued that the petition died on arrival, given the Supreme Court judgment that other political parties could not interfere in the internal affairs of another party, especially on the issue of nomination. Similarly, Tinubu and Shettima, represented by Chief Wole Olanipekun, SAN, argued that the APM's petition should not have been filed in the first instance and demanded its outright dismissal. Olanipekun told the tribunal that the petition ought to have been withdrawn honorably immediately after the Supreme Court pronounced that no party has the right to dabble into how another party nominated its candidates. In the case of Peter Obi, the Labour Party LP is also praying the tribunal to invalidate President Bola Tinubu's election. The petitioners called 13 witnesses before closing their case on June 23, 2023. In their final written address, dated July 20, 2023, the petitioners argued that Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima were not qualified to contest the poll. They argued that Tinubu was fined $460,000 for an offense involving dishonesty, namely narcotics trafficking, imposed by the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, in case number 93C 44833 between the United States of America and Tinubu, while his running mate, Shettima, was the APC's candidate for Borno Central Senatorial District and vice presidential candidate for the whole of Nigeria in the same election year. They also argued that Tinubu failed to win the majority of the lawful vote cast in the election, just as he could not secure 1/4 of the lawful votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory FCT Abuja, as required by law. The petitioners also alleged that the election was conducted in substantial non-compliance with the provisions of the law. They also contended that Tinubu was not duly elected by a majority of the lawful votes cast at the time of the election. Therefore, the LP candidate and his party urged the court to either declare him as the president-elect, believing that he scored the majority of the lawful votes during the election, or alternatively, nullify the entire election and order a fresh election. They also urged the court to hold that Tinubu at the time of the election was not qualified to contest the presidential poll. But on August 1, 2023, during adoption of the final written addresses, INEC's legal team, led by Abubakar Mahmood, SAN, prayed the court to dismiss the petition for want of merit. Chief Wole Olanipekun, SAN, counsel to Tinubu and Shettima, and Prince Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, representative of the APC, also prayed the court to dismiss the petitioner's case.
On the issue of rerun, I do not want to predict the court because we presented a lot of issues.
In his petition, Atiku Abubakar and the PDP asked the tribunal to invalidate Tinubu's election on grounds of non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 in conducting the poll. The petitioner's case is that for any of the candidates in the February 25, 2023 poll to be declared winner, they must score 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, arguing that the purported failure of Tinubu to meet the said constitutional requirement invalidated his election. The Electoral Commission deployed the bimodal voters accreditation system machines for the accreditation of voters and uploading of photographic images of result sheets on the INEC results viewing portal in the last national election. Atiku and the PDP argued that whereas Professor Mahmoud Yakubu had repeatedly assured the public that the February 2023 general election will be the best election ever, with a guaranteed use of the bimodal voters accreditation system BVAS and real-time and direct uploading of the polling unit results to the Commission's electronic collation system and results viewing portal IREV. The bypass and non-use of the BVAS machines in the transmission of the accreditation data and polling unit results of the election fundamentally and substantially affected the integrity of the results announced by the INEC for both Tinubu and his political party, APC, and thoroughly discredited the process of the election. Atiku is also invoking the margin of lead principle to assert that INEC's hasty announcement of Tinubu as the winner of the presidential poll is unconstitutional and without due process. The principle states that when the margin of lead between the winner and the runner-up is less than the total number of voters affected by cancellations in their different polling units, the election is declared inconclusive and a rerun organized.
We all adopted our final written addresses, which are our final submissions in this case, summarizing all the evidence we tendered before the court. You saw all the witnesses we called, all the exhibits we tendered. So today, we now summarized and adopted our submissions. So now, the matter has been adjourned for judgment. In other words, we have done our own bit, and as it is said, the ball is now in the court of the court.
But during proceedings on August 1, 2023, when the parties adopted their final written addresses, Atiku's lead counsel, Chief Chris Uche SAN, prayed the court to overturn Mr. Tinubu's victory and declare Atiku Nigeria's president. He reiterated that the deployment of technology during the election by the electoral umpire was to enhance the transparency of results collation, where fraud often occurs. Chris Uche contended that during the February 25 presidential election, there was a deliberate bypass of the technology to create room for manipulation of results. He told the court that INEC deployed technology in the conduct of the election. Therefore, the burden is on INEC to explain what transpired during the polls. But defending its declaration of Tinubu as the winner of the March 25, 2023 presidential poll, INEC's lawyer Abubakar Mahmoud urged the court to dismiss Atiku's suit for lacking in merit. In INEC's final argument, Mahmoud told the court that Atiku failed to discharge the burden placed on him by law in proving his allegations against the conduct of the election. The electoral umpire's lawyer said contrary to Atiku's claim, the deployment of the bimodal voters accreditation system machines and INEC results viewing IREV for the presidential election was successful. Also, Tinubu's lawyer Olanipekun argued that Atiku had abandoned his petition owing to his inability to prove his case. He told the court that Atiku resorted to attacking Tinubu's person instead of proving his allegations. On the manual collation of the presidential election results, Olanipekun contended that the mode adopted did not diminish the credibility of the electoral process. Uploading results to IREV, whether manually or electronically, plays no role in the collation of results. It does not add or decrease the number of votes. Collation is physical and manual. By constitutional provision, the tribunal has until September 16, 2023 to deliver its judgment in the cases.